Hello, everybody. I would now like to call to order the, whatever today is, September 18th meeting of the Downtown Design Review Board. Will the board and ex officio members please introduce themselves?
Cameron Boland, AIA representative.
Rick Blackburn, Historic Zoning Commission.
Matthew DeBard-Laban, Downtown Knoxville Alliance representative.
Laura Wen, Downtown Resident Representative.
Jared Worsham, Downtown Resident Representative.
Suzanne Taravella, Neighborhood Representative.
Lindsay Crockett, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Josh Wright, Urban Design Representative.
Tony Allen, Downtown Business Rep.
Melinda Woolert, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Dallas DeArma, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Mark Reel, Plans Review and Inspections.
Thanks, everybody. The minutes of the August 21st board meeting are provided in the packet. Are there any comments or corrections?
I have a correction. It says that Josh Wright is chair and Suzanne is vice chair on them, so I submit for the titles to be.
I can correct that.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Lindsay, can you give us the staff report, please?
There were no administrative approvals since the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the certificates of appropriateness. The first one is 9A24DT.
Okay, so these are minor revisions to a previously issued COA that was 2B22DT. So the sections of the mechanical penthouse were previously proposed to be clad in the existing brick veneer, the sections that are visible from the parking lot, the Strong Street elevation. The new mechanical penthouse and interior space will be constructed in a similar footprint and location and clad in concealed fastener metal panels. This also includes the removal of the decorative metal ornament on Gay Street and the Wall Avenue elevations. And then at the intersection of Gay and Wall Avenue, the installation of new full light operable window units. So that's right here where my cursor. It was previously proposed as an open area. So overall, the majority of the work to be completed at the site was reviewed and approved by the board in February 2022. This includes changes that were submitted for permitting that don't reflect the initial approval. Overall, this proposal meets the intent of the design guidelines, including installing operable window systems in the bays in the corner of Gay Street and Wall Avenue. That'll continue to enhance the pedestrian interest and engagement in the site. Removing the decorative cast metal screening above the storefront windows doesn't detract from the building's overall character. There's no new blank wall sections created by this proposal. The mechanical enclosure's footprint's not going to be modified. The black brick veneer cladding is described as deteriorated and having structural concerns. So the applicant will remove it and replace with concealed fastener metal panels that's already been approved for the new rooftop penthouse addition. Due to the visibility of the new material, the application was referred back to the board for review and approval. It exceeds what staff could approve. In the opinion of staff, that additional metal panel siding, it's located on secondary elevations and it won't detract from the overall character of the building. So staff's recommending approval of 9A24DT as submitted.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
I am. Brian Ewers, Dollar and Ewers Architecture, 111 East Jackson Avenue. If you got any questions, I guess I'm here to answer them. The brick was removed because of weight. We're trying to keep it under a 50% threshold in order to avoid having to kick into a higher seismic category, which would basically kill the project. So we're basically stripped it down to, lifeboat.
Got it. Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of this project? And hearing none, do we have any board comments or discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you. That's it for certificates of appropriateness for today. We have a few infill housing projects. The first one is 9A24IH.
Okay, so this is at 1205 Adcock Avenue in Lonsdale. So this is a new primary structure on a vacant lot on Adcock Avenue. It is a square in shape house that's proposed. It's a one-story residence with a small hipped roof entry stoop centered over the door. The house is proposed to be clad in vinyl siding with a concrete block foundation. Parking is proposed for the front of the lot via an 18 by 18 parking pad in front of the house. The east elevation, or the front elevation, which is the east elevation, is 3 bays wide and has multi-light picture windows flanking a central door. There are no windows on the right elevation, and then 2 windows and a secondary door accessing a deck on the rear elevation. The house is proposed to be set 22 feet from the front property line. The average setback of the block face is 18.5 feet. The adjacent houses are 17 and 20, so the front setback will be generally consistent with the block. The final site plan should include a walkway from the front door to the street. Overall, the block to receive new construction has minimal traditionals, modified Queen Anne cottages, and then infill construction. They're largely small rectangular plan houses. So this house, the adjacent house is a small rectangular plan minimal traditional house. So this house is relatively simple in form, but it is proportional to the houses on the block. The guidelines recommend that on lots without alleys, new driveways should be at least 20 feet behind the front facade of the infill house, with access limited to 1 lane between the street and the front facade. Front yard parking is prohibited in the infill housing code. Parking is currently proposed for the front and should be revised to meet the guidelines. The facade width is similar to the context. The house has an elevated concrete block foundation, which is similar to the block. The concrete block foundation should be clad in stucco or parge coated to match the context. The guidelines recommend a front porch proportionate to original houses on the block, noting that small stoops are appropriate on blocks where porches were not traditional. The minimal traditional houses on the block, which you can see here in the street view, do lack large front porches. The remainder, including the infill, do have partial or full width front porches. So the board could discuss the necessary of a full width porch. The guidelines recommend window and door styles be similar to historic houses on the block with similar placement and ratio of solid to void. They also discourage contemporary windows such as picture windows in historic neighborhoods. The facade windows should be revised to typical sizes of double hung windows. They could be paired to reflect the context, and that right side elevation should feature at least 1 window to avoid a large swath of siding with no transparency. The roof has a sufficiently steep pitch for the context, and the final site plan should feature 1 native or naturalized tree in the front and rear yards per the guidelines. So staff's recommending approval of 9A24IH subject to the conditions that the final site plan include a walkway from the front door to the street, revisions to the parking to meet guidelines and avoid the front yard. Final site plan should meet city engineering standards, revisions to the facade and side elevation, window design and placement with approval by staff, and then the final site plan to include the trees.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Mr. Barnes, are you on Zoom? Okay.
Okay. Do we have any board comments or discussion?
So the adjacent properties don't have, this is like first time speaking in front of a crowd, the mic messes up. The front porches you mentioned, there's not very much context of a wider, more usable front porch in the areas, the adjacent properties.
We can go through Street View if you'd like to see. I think the Queen Anne cottages, of which there were several, they have this, and the infill construction, which you can see in this one. There are fuller partial width porches, but then there are several like simple minimal traditionals that have the stoop.
I mean, it'd be great to see that, but I don't think we can require them to do it, but it's just a question. So I'd motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I would like to actually take away the issue of the windows because I think the windows are appropriate.
Okay, do you want to elaborate on that?
Because I think those large windows add a lot of character to that house. And if we move them to 2 smaller windows, it's going to look less appropriate. And if you look at the building the house next door, it certainly is much better than that one. No, if you look at the one to the right of it. And I think we should allow some flexibility for these people to use larger windows.
Lindsay, just to clarify, we're asking them to use double hung windows, but not make them smaller, and they could be mulled together, is that right?
Yeah, that was the recommendation, just based on the design guideline that says contemporary windows such as picture windows should not be used. But the board always has the ability to make those interpretations.
So that's the building to the left of it, and if you keep going,
So this
then
is
that's
the
the
lot.
lot.
And that's the building to the right and the building to the left.
I agree that the overall size of the window gives it character and is appropriate, but I do agree also that following the guidelines is important, and we could get that same amount of window area with a different detail.
I would also assume the contractor and client wouldn't push back on that mold together double hung either, to back up what you said, Suzanne.
We have a motion and a second that we need to tidy up. Is there any revisions to that, or should we proceed? Okay.
Just say without the applicant here, I'm more comfortable going with the staff recommendation since there's.
Sorry, I was late.
Are you?
Oh, are you? Is that you? Okay.
It's tough.
Please give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, Jason Barnes, 802 Lovell Road, Knoxville.
Great, thank you. We were just discussing the staff report and recommendation, and the discussion item currently is the front windows. The board is generally, through discussion, we haven't voted yet, in agreement with the staff recommendation that the windows need to comply with the guidelines, which means double hung windows. But Josh made the point that large windows at the front of the house give it character, and that's a good thing. And so we were discussing using two double hung windows molded together to more align with the guidelines, but still give you that same window size.
Okay. We've built 24 of these in the last 4. I'm building 2 right now, actually going through city permit. It's the same 900 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Most of those are in the Bearden area. This is the first time I've tried Mechanicsville, Lonsdale, whatever you want to call that area over there. Probably the last. But that home, I mean, you can drive by and look at Hollywood Road. I think we've got 20-something lots on Hollywood, and then Apex back behind it, and Lyle and Dance. And so there's 90 of them total. It's not my full-time job, but enjoy building them. 2-bedroom, 2-bath. One of my 4 daughters lives in one of them. So I'm pretty comfortable with the build. Moving and changing the style. I mean, my father-in-law is the builder on it. I guess I could talk to him about changing windows, but I mean, we get them all from Anderson. It's the same package every single time. But, moving things around or changing the style, I guess you can add a window or not add a window. I guess the recommendation is for me to change what isn't broken. Is that what we're looking at? Just want me to change my build?
We want you to change it to align with the guidelines that we need to enforce.
Gotcha. And the enforcing, is that also with that sidewalk? Was that one of them that you wanted to add?
So there were, the main one on the site plan is the parking. Front yard parking is prohibited in the infill housing overlay, and there are design guidelines that recommend that the parking extend to the side of the house instead of the front. So that would probably be the main one on the site plan. And then yes, typically the guidelines also recommend that houses have a walkway to the street, like the ones that you can see here.
Do you know how many properties there are on Adcock Road? 12. Do you know how many of them have that sidewalk? 1. So I'm happy to conform with the other 7 or 8% of the homes that are on Adcock and put in another concrete sidewalk to the road to match that other house on Adcock. But I guess my thing is with the setbacks on the side, it's going to be very difficult to get the driveway to conform with the width. I guess I could have one space over there, right? If it's moved to the side a little, I can have the double width or the width of this that I need, but then have one go up beside the house.
So the design guidelines say new driveways should be behind the front facade of the infill house with access limited to 1 lane between the street and the front facade. And so typically, and I'll let Mark correct me if I'm incorrect, but typically the requirement from city engineering for these types of driveways, it just has to be 10 feet wide and 35 feet long. So it could extend to the side. And if you have 10 feet, if I can read this, 10 feet here and 10 feet here, it shouldn't be too much of an issue to shift the house slightly to the side to avoid the front yard parking.
Okay, so there's not a 10-foot setback on each side?
No.
No. So it would be 15 total feet, so it could be 8 and, so I can move it over a little?
Yeah, and the design review board has the capacity to actually issue variances for side setbacks. So if you are moving something on the site plan to accommodate the parking, meeting the guidelines, and it were an issue, that would generally be okay.
Okay, so move the driveway, put in a concrete sidewalk to the road. One issue, can we look at the house? I noticed you've picked I guess, neighbors that are down the road a ways. I'm trying to find the neighbor directly beside me whose driveway encroaches that we'll be removing.
And so I just clarify that there are a good amount of houses in this neighborhood that were built before the placement of the infill housing overlay. I'm happy we were just looking at that. So are you referencing this one?
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one of the newer builds.
Well, and it's obviously non-conforming, so it's not one that we want to use as precedent.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second on what we had up here earlier,
The staff recommendation.
staff recommendations. I had said that I think we ought to let you have the big picture windows, and that's what we were discussing. Would you be willing to instead do one big picture window, but 2 double hung windows so it's in more conformance? Because the intent of the overlay is to increase the quality of the neighborhood with each new building.
Yeah. I don't do any big picture windows. All of them there are 2 windows that slide up and down and all the, I know, I honestly, that thing was built and I've been using that same plan for.
Okay, well then.
Yeah.
We can only evaluate drawings that are accurate. We
Yeah.
can't evaluate something that we can't see.
No, I get that. And with the city, they've just been using that same plan for every single house that we've done for, I guess, the last 5 on Apex in 2 years and 5, 6 on Hollywood. So I know that they've all been, that's the same plan. I think Adcock is the only one where they've asked me to change it, but I can.
Do you have any concerns with the staff recommendations?
I don't know what they are.
Here they are.
Let's see, driveway off to the side, keep the windows, the double hung, 2 windows, not a big picture window, I get that. Let's see. My issue is on that driveway, that picture that you have up, I've got to put a culvert in. That's a drainage ditch. So to do that, and I move the driveway over, am I going to have to now do a small culvert? Is that going to be part of it from engineering for the sidewalk?
That's kind of where this element of final site plan should meet city engineering standards here. So we have the capacity to work with you guys and get input from city engineering on revisions that would be driven by that.
Would you negotiate to remove the need for it to go to the road and I can come down the yard and then over into the driveway so that I don't have to build another culvert to get to the road? Because that's a pretty good ditch by the road. It's where all the water off the hill from the top of Apex at the cul-de-sac runs off.
The intent here is just to avoid the front yard parking.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me.
Motion carries.
All right.
Okay. Next up, we have 9C24IH.
Okay. This is a new primary structure on a flag lot. So you can see the outline of this pretty unique piece of property here in the site plan and then here in the aerial photo. So this is a one-story residence that has a front gable roof, a side gable massing projecting towards the left elevation, a partial width front gable porch supported by tapered wood piers on bases clad in a stone veneer. The parking is proposed as a 15-foot wide gravel drive that'll extend off Seymour Avenue here, obviously as it has to. And then it will lead to a gravel parking area, which you can see called out kind of in this. And it extends towards the rear of the house. So some of the staff findings. So this house is, in terms of setbacks, the house is going to be 46 feet 7 inches from that east side property line. So due to the flag lot, this house will be set behind the house on Seymour Avenue and face this side street. The house will be set well behind the existing block face on the side street as well due to the existence of a rear lot there. Based on the setback requirements and the unique nature of the property, the proposed setbacks are sufficient. Due to the location and layout of the property, a walkway to the street would not be possible. The block that will receive new construction is characterized by ranch houses along the side street and then craftsmen's and minimal traditionals along Seymour Avenue. The proposed house is proportionate to the dimensions of the lot and other houses on the block. The parking is also complicated by the shape of the lot. The access off Seymour is required, but the gravel parking area should be reduced in size to be limited to that one lane adjacent to the house and eliminate the section of gravel parking in front of the house. If a turnaround is needed, the house could be moved up towards the east side property line and the turnaround could be behind the house. The site plan should meet city engineering standards. The house incorporates a 6-foot deep front gable roof front porch on the right half of the facade, including these craftsman details. The design guidelines do discourage stone veneer, which typically lacks precedent in our historic neighborhood, so the piers could be clad in window or in brick and stucco. The guidelines recommend window and door styles be similar to historic houses on the house. All of the elevations have sufficient transparency. The roof pitch meets the design guidelines along with the materials. So staff's recommending approval of 9C24IH subject to the site plan being revised to avoid front yard parking, the site plan meeting city engineering standards, the front porch piers be clad in brick veneer or stucco, and the final site plan include the trees.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present? Please give us your name and address.
Aaron Nichols, 1506 Dogwood Cove, Knoxville.
Thank you. Does the board have any discussion?
Do you have any concerns with any of the staff recommendations?
No, that's fine, man. And the owner should be on the Zoom call, so for some reason.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh.
Hi.
Hello.
Were you able to hear Lindsay's report?
Yes, I was.
And do you have any concerns with her recommendations?
No, there is a large magnolia tree in the front. Would that suffice for the front, or does there need to be an additional one added?
I mean, I think that's up to the board's interpretation, but I think that suffices to me for sure, especially based on the property shape.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
I think it's a super cute house. Thanks for doing a good job. I'll make a motion to approve for staff recommendations and allowing the magnolia tree to count.
I just have one question. The base of wall, is there any information about the foundation, or is it a slab on grade?
It'll be a slab on grade.
Okay, so
you'll have a small amount of concrete that we'll just stucco coat.
okay, that's what I was looking for. It just doesn't show up in the drawings, so I can't review it. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That is it for our agenda tonight. If there's no other discussion, then we will adjourn. Thank you.
I had one thing I was going to say, just about one of the projects last time, because we had that pretty horrible little multifamily infill come before us. And I just want to say that we need to be very careful about making sure that any of the higher density stuff that's entering these neighborhoods needs to be of or better than the quality of the housing around it, or else it's going to destroy the infill housing process that we're doing with the higher density stuff. Because if we don't, if we start allowing lower quality, higher density elements into those neighborhoods, the political will not be there to keep that in place, and we'll lose that tool to help with the housing crisis that's in the city. Thanks.
Excellent point.
Yep.
They're still working on revision.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks, everybody.